imagine spend the last decade meticulously building the perfect front door to your business.
Right.
You painted it, you put up a neon sign, you hired a greeter, and then almost overnight, you realize your customers have entirely stopped walking down that street.
They're just gone.
Exactly. They're exclusively walking through the side door, and you don't even have a handle on that door.
Yeah, that is a terrifying realization for anyone running a business right now.
It really is.
Yeah.
So welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive, everyone. Today, we are decoding a fundamental rewiring of the modern internet.
We really are.
We are talking about the massive, undeniable shift from traditional SEO, search engine optimization, to GEO, which stands for Generative Engine Optimization.
Which is just a massive shift in how we think about the web.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
And to understand exactly how this works, we have told from a really robust stack of sources today. We are diving into an extensive guide on AI-first content optimization with some really great technical insights from To The Web, Gopher Tool, and the DEV community.
Yeah, the technical breakdowns there are fantastic.
They really are. And we are also analyzing McKinsey & Company's latest, frankly, eye-opening research on AI search behaviors, alongside some practical strategy frameworks from my BFF Social.
Which gives us a completely holistic view, right? Like, we have the macro-level data showing us how human psychology and behavior are fundamentally shifting.
Right.
But we also have the granular, highly technical breakdown of how systems like large language models actually parse the text on your website.
And our mission today is to decode both of those things. I mean, we need to figure out how AI is rewiring the way information is discovered, and more importantly, how anyone creating content can adapt.
Yeah, whether you are a massive global brand, a local business, or just running a personal blog, you have to ensure your work is actually seen by these new gatekeepers.
Exactly. So consider this the ultimate shortcut for you, the learner. Whether you are prepping for a high-stakes marketing meeting or trying to catch up on tech trends that seem to be, like, moving at light speed.
Or you're just insanely curious about why your own Googling habits feel so drastically different lately.
Yes. This deep dive will give you a vital aha moment about the hidden mechanics of the modern web. Okay, let's unpack this. Traditional SEO was basically like optimizing for that front door of an exclusive club, right?
Yeah, you put the right keywords on your site, you stood in the right line.
You earned your spot on page one, and boom, you got traffic. But the club has fundamentally changed its layout.
It really has. And before we dive into the actual technical mechanics of writing for an AI, we need to look at the sheer scale of the behavioral shift that forced this change.
It's not just a niche thing anymore.
No, not at all. We are no longer dealing with early adopters or tech enthusiasts. We are dealing with mainstream consumer behavior.
And the data here is just staggering. According to the McKinsey research in our stack, 44% of AI-powered search users already state it is their primary and preferred source of insight.
Almost half.
Right. They actively prefer a chatbot interface over traditional search engines, retailer websites, and even dedicated review sites.
That's the crazy part.
People are turning in droves to major players like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and Google's AI overviews.
And notice what they are bypassing: their retailer websites and review sites.
Yeah.
They aren't just using these tools to write emails or generate funny poems anymore.
No, they're buying things.
Exactly. The McKinsey data highlights that in some sectors, 40 to 55% of consumers are using AI search to make actual hard dollar purchasing decisions.
Wow. Over half in some sectors.
Yeah. Furthermore, 70% are asking top-of-funnel questions. So their very first interaction with a topic, a problem, or a brand is happening inside a generative interface.
Which fundamentally changes the game you're playing. I mean, I look at those numbers and I have to ask, wait, so is SEO completely dead? Or is it just in the bathroom looking in the mirror asking what happened to its jawline?
What's fascinating here is that the tournament itself has changed. Traditional SEO was a tournament of visibility, right?
Like just getting seen.
Right. The goal was to rank on page one and provide a blue link that a human might click. You were competing for eyeballs. Generative Engine Optimization, GEO, is a tournament of synthesis.
Synthesis. Okay, explain that.
It is about being selected, extracted, summarized, and recommended by a machine. Think of traditional search, like a librarian who points you to an aisle and says, here are 10 books on your topic, go read them.
Right, which puts a massive cognitive load on the user.
Exactly. But AI search acts like an enthusiastic, deeply knowledgeable friend who says, oh, I know exactly what you need. and then proceeds to hand over a highly curated, synthesized answer completely from memory.
Ah, I see.
If your data isn't structured in a way that gets committed to that friend's memory, you simply aren't in the consideration set.
So the user never even sees the blue links to ignore them. They just read the synthesized answer and move on with their day.
Yep, the friction of the internet has been removed for the user.
But it's doubled for the creator. So how do we actually get into this enthusiastic friend's memory?
Well, you have to completely transition your mindset from visibility to machine readability. An AI system does not care about the aesthetic vibes of your website.
Right. Doesn't care if your prose is poetic.
Or if your hero image is stunning, it cares about structured data. You absolutely cannot fake your way into an AI's consideration set with a rambling 2,000-word blog post that just repeats the same concept 11 different ways to hit an old-school keyword quota.
Oh man, goodbye to the days of scrolling past a novelist's entire life story about studying abroad in Italy just to get to the recipe for chocolate chip cookies.
Seriously, generative engines do not consume a page the way a human reads a novel. They use a process often called retrieval augmented generation, or AGARI.
Raga, got it.
When a user asks a question, the AI scans its vast index for the most mathematically relevant pieces of information. The insights from ToTheWeb specifically point out that AI needs modular, answer-focused content.
So breaking it down.
Yes, they recommend breaking your content down into short, highly focused chunks of 75 to 300 words, and each chunk has to answer a single specific question.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the AI doesn't read the page like a book, it's more like a chef making a soup.
Oh, I like that.
The AI is pulling chunks of information from the internet like a chef grabbing ingredients from a massive pantry. If your 300-word ingredient isn't clearly labeled, it doesn't go in the AI's soup. It just gets left on the shelves.
Let's take your chef analogy and push it into the actual technical mechanism. Think of your headers, your bullet points, and your website's underlying code as barcodes on a grocery item.
Okay. Barcodes.
The AI scanner doesn't care how pretty the packaging is. It just needs to be able to scan the barcode instantly. If you have a massive block of unbroken text, the scanner can't find the barcode and it moves on.
So it just skips you entirely.
Exactly. This is where structural necessities come in. You need clear H1, H2, and H3 headers. But not just clever headers, you need question-based subheads.
Meaning what? Exacts.
Meaning the text is the literal question the user typed into the prompt.
So instead of a header saying, like, our brilliant marketing philosophy,
Yeah.
it should literally just say, what is a B2B marketing strategy?
Precisely. And the very first sentence under that subhead needs to be the direct, objective answer.
No fluff.
None. Then you follow it with bulleted lists, FAQ sections, tables, and what developers call schema markup.
Right. Schema markup. We hear schema markup thrown around a lot in technical guides. What is that actually doing under the hood?
Schema markup is invisible code you add to your website that explicitly tells the machine what a piece of data is.
Oh, so it's not for humans to read at all.
No, humans never see it. For instance, if you have the number 45 on your page, a human might infer from the context that it's a price, or a date, or maybe an age.
Right.
An AI doesn't want to infer. Schema markup is a tag that explicitly says entity, price, value, $45. It removes all ambiguity.
It spells it out.
Yeah. The core pillars of GEO outlined in the sources are content explainability and crawly accessibility. You are doing the hard computational work for the AI so it doesn't have to guess.
And if we are doing the computation for the machine, then hyperliteralism is the strategy. We can't rely on humans reading between the lines anymore.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this hyperliteralism is entirely about entity clarity. Large language models map the world using knowledge graphs.
Knowledge graphs, like a giant web of connections.
Exactly. They identify entities, people, places, concepts, brands, and draw mathematical relationships between them. You cannot have one page on your site defining your product one way, another page saying something slightly different,
Right.
and a third page written by an intern using made-up corporate jargon, like, local synergy paradigms.
Because the machine can't map local synergy paradigms to a known entity in its database. It just gets confused.
It creates a muddy mathematical vector. And when an AI encounters conflicting information or undefined jargon on your own domain, its confidence score in your authority plummets.
If confidence drops.
When confidence drops, it skips you. It goes to a competitor who explains their offering in plain, structured English. Consistency and being highly quotable are paramount.
Okay, so let's say I've done that. I've stripped out the jargon. I have my clearly labeled, perfectly structured 300-word chunk with its schema markup. The AI scans my barcode, grabs my ingredient, and serves it up to the user in a beautiful synthesized paragraph.
Perfect.
Are we done? Because a traditional Google search might end there, but interacting with an AI is fundamentally conversational. People ask follow-ups.
And that is a crucial pivot point in the strategy. Your content design has to transition from answering a single isolated query to predicting a chain of queries.
Anticipating what they ask next.
Yes. AI search happens in stages as users drill deeper into a topic. Every section of your website needs to answer a specific sequence. What is this? Who is it for? Why does it matter? How does it work? And amendolively, what should a buyer ask next?
Because they aren't going to type a whole new search string into a new tab. They're just going to reply to the chatbot in the exact same window.
The sources provide some excellent real-world examples of this conversational drill down. Let's say someone asks an AI, what is a good social media strategy for a new brand?
Okay, that's the top of funnel question.
Right. The AI pulls your perfectly structured 300-word answer, but the immediate human follow-up question in that chat window is going to be, how much should I spend on paid promotion for that strategy?
Oh, or like, how do I measure the ROI?
Exactly. Or if someone asks about franchise marketing, the next logical step is to ask about local execution or how to force franchisees to actually adopt the marketing materials.
So what does this all mean? It seems like there's a massive trap here that even smart businesses are falling into.
There really is.
They answer the obvious first question, like, what is franchise marketing? And they just stop, they wipe their hands, assume they've generated the lead, and completely fail to provide the answer for the very next thing the person's going to ask.
It is a deadly trap in GEO.
Huh.
Think about how chatbots maintain context windows. If the user asks a follow-up question, the AI first looks at the source it just cited to see if the answer is there.
Oh, so it checks your site again.
Yes. But if your content doesn't anticipate that follow-up question and provide the answer, the AI abandons your site entirely and queries its broader index for a competitor's source to answer step 2.
Wow. So you essentially did all the heavy lifting to educate the user, only to hand the actual conversion or the deeper engagement over to a competitor because you didn't predict the second question.
You have to map the entire conversational journey and then package that journey into interlinked 300-word machine-readable chunks.
Okay, mapping the user journey on my own site makes sense. But anticipating questions assumes the AI actually trusts your site to begin with.
That's a very good point.
I want to shift our discussion from these on-page structural tactics to off-page reputation, because everything we've talked about so far only matters if the AI actually crawls your site.
GEO is not just a page-level exercise. It is a massive ecosystem exercise.
Ecosystem exercise.
Yeah, an AI model evaluates your brand's entire footprint across the web to calculate your authority. It relies on obvious external signals to determine credibility before it ever decides to extract your 300-word chunk.
The sources use an incredibly evocative phrase here, calling certain brands a digital yard sale. What does a digital yard sale actually look like to a machine?
A digital yard sale is fragmented data. It is an old Facebook page from 2018 with a defunct phone number,
Yikes.
a Yelp profile with 0 replies to reviews, a LinkedIn page with half-finished bios, and a disjointed press release from 3 years ago buried on page 4 of a search engine.
So just chaos.
Complete chaos. When a large language model attempts to build a knowledge graph of your brand and encounters all this conflicting, stale data, it cannot verify who you are or what you do.
It just gives up.
AI systems do not possess the capacity or the computational desire to magically piece together your broken reputation.
Wait, if I'm understanding this, if I spend weeks optimizing the headers and schema markup on my own blog, but the rest of my web presence is a ghost town, am I basically just shouting into my own closet?
You are. AI systems act a lot like tired humans who are short on time. They rely on obvious external heuristics of trust.
They need shortcuts?
They look at weightings. How many other trusted entities are talking about you? This is why PR and content strategy, which used to be somewhat siloed, are now best friends.
Oh, that makes sense.
Earned media, expert commentary quoted on major news sites, and strong third-party references create mathematical trust signals.
It's basically a citation graph. If the New York Times or an industry-leading blog mentions your brand, the AI assigns a massive weight to your entity's authority.
GEO is simply reputation, translated into machine-readable form. If other high-authority sites are confident talking about you, the AI feels mathematically confident talking about you.
Which sounds incredibly daunting. Listening to this breakdown of offsite ecosystem reputation, it honestly sounds like a rigged game that only massive corporations with million-dollar PR retainers can win.
It does sound like that, doesn't it?
It really does. But the sources point out that the reality is actually the exact opposite. This brings us to what we can call the underdog advantage, which I think is where the practical application really hits home for anyone listening right now who doesn't have a Fortune 500 budget.
It is incredibly empowering for smaller players, local businesses, niche companies, and multi-location or franchise
Like
businesses.
a regional real estate agency or a local plumbing company.
Exactly. They actually have a massive opening here. They do not need to outspend the national brands. They just need to out-explain them.
Out-explain, not outspend. How does a local plumber beat a massive national home services brand in an AI overview?
Because AI rewards clarity, specificity, and consistency above ad spend. Think about a generic national player. They might have a glossy brand deck, a beautiful HTML5 website, and a massive Google Ads budget.
But their content is broad.
It's broad, it's generic, and it lacks local nuance. A local business that truly knows its specific market understands the exact, nuanced questions its local customers are asking.
The hyper-specific stuff.
Right. And if they structure those answers clearly, using the schema markup, the 300-word chunks, and the direct headers we discussed, the AI will prioritize them
Over the national brand.
over the national brand. The algorithm is looking for the most accurate, specific answer to the user's highly specific question, not the brand with the biggest billboard.
And this aligns perfectly with the philosophy brought forward by MyBFF Social in our source stack. They argue that businesses need a comprehensive system to succeed here, not just random acts of content.
Yeah, Matt Gentile, the CEO there, focuses heavily on this. You cannot rely on pretty graphics or scattered marketing efforts. You need a coherent, structured system across all platforms to generate measurable growth.
Everything has to connect.
If your data isn't systemic, you don't show up as a credible, authoritative answer. You just blend into the background as what they call digital wallpaper.
Let me try to synthesize this rapid-fire, no-fluff GEO checklist for you based on the mechanics we've just unpacked.
Go for it.
If you want to survive the shift to generative engine optimization, you need to do four things. First, write your content around the real, literal questions your buyers are asking and make those questions your H2 headers.
Spot on.
Second, answer those questions fast, right up front in the very first sentence, and then elaborate in dense 300-word semantic chunks.
Yeah.
Third, map the user journey by linking related content to anticipate the conversational follow-up questions. And fourth, maintain absolute data consistency across every platform on the internet so your brand isn't an unreadable digital yard sale.
This raises an important question, though.
Well,
What is it? After you have done all of that structuring, who are you actually writing for? Are you writing solely to impress a machine, or are you writing for the human who is ultimately going to read that summary and pull out their credit card?
oh man, that is the ultimate tension of the modern internet right there.
It is. Because the AI is really just the bouncer at the front door. It checks your ID, it makes sure you meet the structural requirements, it verifies your offsite reputation by checking the guest list.
But once you're inside,
Once the bouncer lets you in and serves your content to the user, that content still needs to resonate. It has to be engaging, insightful, and genuinely helpful to the human reading the AI's summary. If your writing is just a robotic string of facts, the human will bounce.
you have to satisfy the machine's absolute computational need for structure without losing the human element that actually drives connection.
Precisely. It's a balancing act.
So let's recap the journey we've taken today. We started by looking at the undeniable decline of traditional SEO visibility, driven by that McKinsey data showing how heavily users are favoring the conversational ease of AI search.
Huge shift.
We explored the rise of GEO, diving into the actual mechanics of why large language models require you to break your knowledge down into 300-word, clearly labeled, machine-readable vectors.
The barcodes.
Exactly. We mapped out the importance of anticipating a user's conversational follow-ups so you don't lose the lead at step 2. And finally, we unpacked why building an off-site ecosystem of trust, cleaning up your digital yard sale, is the only way to prove your authority to these mathematical systems.
It is a massive paradigm shift in how human knowledge is indexed. But as we saw with the underdog advantage, it is also a massive opportunity for those who are willing to adapt their structure.
Which is exactly why this matters for you, the learner. Whether you are actively applying this to restructure a corporate marketing strategy, or you just wanted to finally understand the mechanics of how ChatGPT magically pulls its answers out of the ether, you are now equipped to navigate and conquer this new side door of the internet.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a lingering, provocative thought to ponder on your own.
Let's hear it.
If AI search engines are being heavily trained to favor, extract, and reward content that is highly modular, strictly structured, hyper-literal, and cleanly objective, will the internet eventually lose its quirky, messy, conversational human voice entirely? By optimizing for the machine's bouncer, are we destined to turn the entire web into just a massive, sterile database of 300-word machine-readable answers?
Wow. When the architecture of discovery changes, the architecture of expression usually follows. It is a very real possibility to think about.
Something to chew on the next time you type a question into a chat box and watch the perfect answer instantly appear. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep adapting, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.